Hello there, and welcome to Community Life. Here we talk with the community experts about their life journeys and how they came into the community world. And today we have a conversation with Max Pitt, coffee wrangler and playlist maker at Creative Mornings, one-hand wonder man who also help kids with differences live a more enjoyable life, and just a super kind community expert. So, hello, Max.
Hello, what an intro. That's like one of my favorite intros ever.
Let's start from the beginning, from the first question. What is your favorite Slack emoji?
Ooh, I love the the star sparkle one. I think it works for pretty much everything. It's a really good emoji. I like leaving the heart emojis too, depending on like different community or brand that you're in. So for like super high, we leave like a blue one. I know for community club, it's usually like purple.
Yeah,
But I would still say the sparkle is my favorite.
got it. And it might be a little strange question, but how frequently do people call you Pete instead of
Oh,
Max?
thank you so much for this question. It literally happens, no joke, probably like 10 times a week. Even with people that I've been in touch with for months or longer than that. Sometimes they'll just call me Pete, and I have to remind them that that's my last name. But but it happens all the time. It's the curse of having two first names.
Are you still reminding them, or you just, okay, call me whatever
It,
you
it
like?
depends. Some people I just like, you know what, I'm just gonna go with it because whatever. But sometimes I'm just like, it's Max.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Tell me about your parents. Who are they?
Ooh, that is a good question. Well, uh, I was mainly raised in a single family household. My mom did pass away 7 years ago. Tomorrow is actually her like the 7 year anniversary of her passing. So this is actually really interesting timing of this question. But yeah, she did a lot of different careers in her life. So she started out, I think when I was young and as a kid, she owned a bridal shop where she sold and rented women's wedding dresses. Then she moved into becoming like a teaching substitute educator for elementary, middle school, and high school. Um, then she switched into consulting, and then also did. She was a chef like her whole life. Basically, it was only just like for family meals, but she did some personal chefing too for some families, and which is I have this spatula chef piece
Yeah,
dedicated to her as
yeah.
well, and all my arm tattoos are dedicated to my mom as well. Her favorite flower was morning glory, so I have like a bunch of morning glories going up my arm. Um, and yeah, no, we also moved around a lot in life too. So I was originally from the East Coast in the States and moved to the West Coast when I was 14. And so I think with that, and then also with her switching careers a lot, it instilled with me like the ability of change being okay, and having it be like a frequent part of your life. So very, very thankful for that.
And do you know why did she change so many careers? Because she like gave up on them, so she lack of interest, or she had to? So what is the story behind?
I think it was just there was just so many things that she wanted to do, and never fully needed to like just focus her life on one thing, and I think that was kind of cool because it still isn't, and it definitely, I mean, it's changing a bit now, but definitely back then it wasn't common at all. Like you kind of spent 10, 20, 30 years in a job or a career, and you retired with that. Where it was kind of cool, it's like, you know what, like these next years I really want to focus on being a cook, or these next years I want to consult, and it was just kind of cool that you can make that switch. Now growing up with that sometimes was frustrating because it wasn't as stable, as like some maybe careers or like jobs that people do. But now that I'm older and can reflect back on it, I think it was very, very cool experience to go through.
How many times did you switch your path?
Oh, so many. So I started, I mean, even in college, like I switched my career or my major probably like 4 or 5 times. I originally wanted to work in the music business, which I did after school. I worked in during college too. I was, working in the music industry, more in like the marketing and advertising side. But, I did that for a little bit. And then, but when I was, 18, 19, 20, I thought that was going to be my lifelong career. Like I wasn't going to do anything else. Then I got into, you know, website design and was like, oh, I could actually work with like small businesses that need this help. And so I kind of switched into that. And then kind of took my advertising to work with like smaller businesses too. And then, went back to some agencies in between. Some work with nonprofits, some are just more of like local restaurants and businesses in the area. And then fell into community management. And now, I mean, I've been in this industry, I think for a little 2 years-ish, roughly 2 years. But I think this is like the path, at least I can imagine myself being on for a very long time.
Was it accidentally?
Oh yeah, 100%. And it was all through the pandemic, really, because at the start of the pandemic, I was still freelancing in design and advertising, but I couldn't network with people outside because no one was leaving their homes, and so I was just Googling like different freelance. I guess there were communities, but more like meetups or just, I don't know, places where I could network with other freelancers or meet other freelancers. And I came across this community called Freelance Founders, and just got super involved in that community. And that led into me working for them. But it was all by accident and chance. And it wasn't my intention at all, because I didn't even know what community management was when I started.
How did they propose you to work for them?
So they actually posted a job ad that like went out to all the members. That were like, hey, like we're looking for a part-time community manager. Like these are some of like the role or responsibilities. And I was just like, oh, this looks cool. Like I could see myself doing this. And it was part-time, so I could still, freelance on my own stuff and do community management and kind of see if this was something I liked doing. So I just like emailed them back and was like, hey, if this position isn't filled, I would love to like learn more and apply. And they got back to immediately and were like, hey, we thought about you when we wrote this position, so if you want it, it's yours. And I was just like, okay, cool, like I'm down.
Yeah, it's really fun. I guess you were a super active member.
Mm-hmm. I was super active. Well, because like I said, I wasn't able to network with people in real life. So I was spending a lot of time on this community. I was helping answer questions. I was helping share resources. I was helping basically anything I could to kind of keep this thing going, because it was really something that I was benefiting from without, with just staying at home and being able to chat with other people that were going through similar stuff that I was.
Okay, so let's move a little backwards and closer to yourself. Tell me about your childhood. From what age do you remember yourself?
Ooh, that is a good question. I'd say there's like bits and pieces of like, I kind of like jump from different areas. I mean, definitely like elementary school. I would probably say, third or fourth grade, but I do remember like memories of like being in kindergarten and doing like, I remember doing this one prank that got me in a lot of trouble, like in a lot of trouble. And then I remember in fifth grade when I also got in a lot of trouble for forging my mom's signature on a math test that I did really poorly on. And yeah, I would say like, but the more like clear memories are probably like middle school, high school, especially when I moved to California, and that just change of environment and completely everything too. Like I think, in those years, you're changing enough already, and then you move to a new place and you meet new people, and it's just like completely different from where you grew up and what you are used to. Those were like big impact years for me.
What was that time like?
It was scary, honestly. Like, because I grew up with people that I knew for years, or knew, I knew the environment more. But being out here, like everything was different. The school was different. It was like an outside school. So like in the East Coast, you never have outside schools because it snows and bad weather all the time. And so just even changing that environment, the grading system was different too. Like how you get like an A or a B or a C on certain things. And just, yeah, completely like meeting new people. Like, it's just like, going into ninth grade, where it's like your start of high school in the States, and already being an intimidating year, and just like not knowing anything or anyone. Yeah, it was definitely scary, but it was cool, because it's cool to now that I look back on, because not a lot of people go through those experiences, and it can really help mold you to embrace the uncertain.
Yeah. And how did you find new friends?
That's a good question. How did I find my friends? I don't know. I just went to a lot of people. Like, I bounced around a lot from different like groups in high school. Like, some people would just stay friends with like this certain group of 5 people, and that was all their friends. And I don't know. I think maybe because I was new and I didn't have big attachments to, these people. I was just like, I'm gonna just bounce. I'm gonna hang out with this group. If we vibe and we're good, then cool. If not, then I'm moving on to the next one. I just kind of continued to do that. But yeah, I mean, I think just being able to, just try to fit in as best as I could, but it's also an awkward time too, because you're just like completely different. I did also try to find like other people that were newer in the area too, which also helped, because you have that bond already. Even if you're from different areas, if you're new in the community, it's like, okay, at least we can have that to bond over.
Okay, so tell me a story about the prank you got into trouble with.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, I remember this vividly. So in kindergarten, we always had like snack time or after nap time, and the teacher would always bring like cartons of milk to the classroom, but she would have to go to the cafeteria and then walk back down the hallway to the classroom. And so while she left to do that, my friend and I were like in the doorway, looking out to see when she was coming back down the hallway. And when we saw her, we jumped out and said, "Boo!" And she threw the whole case of cartons of milk, and they went everywhere, like literally all over the hallway, like all 30 milks gone. And she just like looked at us like she was gonna kill us. Like, like she was so mad. And in that moment, I was just like, I knew I messed up. Like, it was funny, but I knew I'm gonna get in some big trouble.
Yeah, and okay, yeah, I believe it. Yeah, it was a big trouble.
Yes.
I can only imagine it. So, tell me, please, why do you like cheese?
Oh, I don't know. You like really do some good investigating. So this is awesome. It's just one of my favorite snacks. We have this grocery store here called Trader Joe's, and they have these like little cheese squares that I literally just buy every single week, because it's like my go-to. Like, after my morning meetings, I just go to the kitchen, have a little cheese snack, and then come back to doing work. But it's great. I also think, growing up with my mom, who was always cooking and stuff, I got used to a lot of different foods or got exposed to a lot of different foods, and just having like really great stuff. And I think cheese was like a big part of like a lot of our meals.
When you have a pizza, do you add double cheese there?
Uh, I don't actually, but I do add. I like to like add a bunch of different toppings.
Like
Um,
what?
well, it depends. It depends on like what I ate the week before. So if I was eating bad and if I'm having a pizza, I'll try to add more like veggies and stuff to it. But if I'm like, it's Friday and like whatever, I don't care. Like, I love, it's I haven't had this in a while because my wife is actually like allergic to pineapple, and so we can't like I don't eat it a lot in the household. But I love Hawaiian pizza, and it gets such a bad rap, but like it's one of my favorites. Um, but I also love like adding spice to it, like jalapenos and hot
Yeah.
sauce and stuff like that.
Okay, so tell me what brings your nerves to the limit more than eating while wearing a fresh white t-shirt?
Like what makes me more nervous than that?
Yeah.
Um, Not much, honestly. I really I have a hard time buying white shirts because of I'm just like I know it's gonna get ruined. Like it's not gonna last. And I love the feeling of wearing a fresh white t-shirt because to me it's just like when the cleanest looks, but I know it's like, all right, this is gonna be a couple weeks, a month at most, and then something's gonna happen. So yeah.
For what occasions are you wearing those t-shirts?
The white shirts.
Yeah.
Usually I try to save them for the weekend, um, because I'm like, cool. It's like a nice, like fresh shirt. But those are also the most dangerous times too. I mean, I really should honestly only be wearing them for work because I'm just like at my desk and I'm not eating at my desk and it's just like the lowest possible room for air. uh, but yeah,
Do you have a habit of making at least one tweet a day?
I try. I definitely did more in the past when I was kind of doing my like daily posts. But I don't know if it's daily or I mean, I try to do something on a weekly basis, at least like one kind of thought provoking tweet. But Twitter is my favorite social platform out of everything. Like, yeah, I love that platform. It allows me to connect with people like you and just it's I don't know. It's something that I consider I spend a lot of time on, which I should probably cut back for sure. Like I try not to have it on my computer when I'm working or on my phone. But it's definitely something I like always check back on.
What are more things you are doing on a daily basis?
Well, it's the weather's really hot here now, but I am trying to do like afternoon walks. So I mean, I do an afternoon walk with my dogs because they need to go out then. But I try to like do like a lap around my neighborhood, which usually comes out to being around like a mile. Just because it's a nice break in the day and it allows me to like get some fresh air and then come back to work. So I'm definitely trying to do that more. I'm trying to be better at like turning off the computer when I'm done and not being on super late, but it's challenging. And trying to incorporate more like reading into my day too. Like, so instead of like checking my phone or instead of watching TV right away, like, can I do 20 minutes of reading?
Do you prefer to read from some device or a book?
I have to have a physical book. I can't do devices. I mean, I'll do devices for like reading like news articles and stuff like that. But if it's an actual book that I'm reading, it has to be, for me, it has to be physical. I just get too distracted on apps and Kindles and all that. Like, and I love to turn the page. And I don't carry a lot of stuff in my home. I mean, kind of, but not compared to a lot of people. But I do want to like create my own like little library of books. And so to me, like that's important.
Do you like a smell of a fresh book?
Oh yeah, love it. And just like when the pages are super crisp,
Yeah.
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So, tell me, please, you always encourage people in your posts, in your tweets, even though those things are things you tell yourself,
Yeah,
and still, who inspires you?
I mean, honestly, everyone. Like, I would say like, some big inspirations in my immediate life are, um, like my sister. I have an older sister who kind of like stepped up into that mom role when my mom passed away. My wife, she has her own business and she's doing like so many cool things, and she has a really great story where she like immigrated to the States when she was 16 and like had to fully adapt and um into a new environment too. So like a lot of that's like super inspiring. And yeah, just honestly other like people that I'm just on social media and in communities that like are just, it's awesome to read about people's stories and just see like where they come from, and making the best out of their circumstances. Yeah, I don't know, I just get inspired by a lot.
Who is responsible more for taking care of your dogs, you or your wife?
Um, we split it up, but I would say I I would say like at least in the afternoons, I kind of help more just because she might be at the studio or do other things. But mornings and evenings, very, very split. But it's honestly like I love it because they force me to like go outside in the morning and afternoon and evening. Like having dogs like really enforce you to, um, yeah, just be active and to not always be on your schedule. Sometimes they have their own schedule that they need to do, and so it's really it's fun. I like it.
Yeah, I totally feel you, because I know if I won't go out with my dogs as soon as I woke up, they will pee everywhere and it will be crazy.
What kind of dogs do you have or
I
have?
have two dogs, it's Chihuahua one and the next is Pomeranian. So
Nice.
two small crazy dogs.
I have a German Shepherd, and then I have a little like Shih Tzu Maltese mix, so a big and small dog.
Yeah. And who is the craziest one?
The little one, Hoagie. She is when we're outside, she has like a completely different personality and so much energy and like just bouncing off the walls. Like she's an older dog too. She's 11, and Scotch is 10. They both have still like a ton of energy and a ton, like they're, love to move. But yeah, when we're outside, like Hoagie just goes crazy. Like she's wild.
Yeah, I can totally understand you. So yeah. Tell me, please, do people disappoint you sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I think it happens. Sometimes it's your own expectations, which can be something that isn't fair to put on others. You know what I mean? Like, so sometimes it's like more just like internalized. But yeah, I mean, I think it happens. It's just part of life. What about you?
Yeah. I, I don't really care. Like, if people are doing some crazy stuff, I like, okay, it's their own problems and business. I'm out of it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
please deal with yourself. So,
yeah.
and what exactly can disappoint you?
I'm a big what's the word I'm looking for? I'm big on like time, right? And so that's something I would say like time management, or like saying you'll do something and then following through with it. I would say those are like big, big things.
Yeah. Without following up, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, so that's exactly how it was last week when I had a bad internet connection.
No, but it wasn't though, because it those things happen, and it wasn't like I was on the call just waiting around. You know what I mean? Like we solved it. We're like, cool, let's do it another time. And that sort of stuff is ideal. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was super nice too because it allowed me to have extra time to get some breakfast. So I liked it.
Yeah, same here. Sometimes when I like run out of meetings, it's like, oh, it's amazing. I have 20 more minutes. I have half an
Yes,
hour more for myself. Cool, great. So, how did you manage to avoid COVID for 2.5 years?
I have no idea. Seriously, like I was around people who had it. Uh, I mean, I was definitely cautious, a lot more cautious in the beginning. But yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. Like,
It was
I'm,
like some
yeah,
random,
seriously, it was super random. And then when I got it, I was just like, oh, like, well,
finally.
finally. But you know, it was, yeah, I mean, it was bad for sure. But I'm thankful that like it wasn't like a terrible experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You, you made a tweet like adulting is planning all of your friend hangs, dinners, etc. on your calendar. So when was the last time you went to an unplanned meeting with friends?
Ooh, I mean, sometimes it happens during the week. Like, I have a really good friend that lives down the street from me, and like sometimes he'll just be like, "I'm coming over," or like we'll go over to his house. Um, so like those type of moments happen sometimes, and sometimes on a weekend too. Like it was just like, oh, like so and so's doing this. But at least during the week, for the most part, like things are definitely on the calendar. Just because like I have a different schedule than my wife does, and we have to make sure like, and then with the dogs, you know, like we don't have kids, but with the dogs and stuff, we have to make sure like that we're back in time for them and all this stuff. And I spoil our dogs a lot too. I love to have like the TV on for them and have their comfort ready. So there's like, they have stuff that it
Uh,
noises on. But yeah, so I would say like it doesn't happen a lot. Like some infrequently it does. But yeah, not too much.
what do you think about naps?
Love naps. I love short power naps if I can, like 10 to 30 minutes. I don't take them a lot during the week, but I kind of wish I did. But I love, yeah, I'm a big nap
How,
person.
how do you feel after them?
If it's a short one, I feel like I can still feel a little groggy, but I'll bounce back pretty quickly. But if it's a long nap, like more than 30 minutes or an hour, like it just takes me a while to bounce back. I kind of feel out of it a little bit. And so it really has to be that sweet spot of like you're in and you're out. If it's longer than that, I can just feel like, oh, like I just, yeah, I'm like, it takes me a long time to just feel like I'm back to normal. Yeah.
Do you have to put naps on your calendar to have them?
No, I don't. Those are more spontaneous, but I think maybe during the week, if I can, I should. Just as a reminder. The nice thing about like being on the West Coast in the States is like, at least for work, the mornings are usually really busy because I'm catching up with like my East Coast colleagues and my European colleagues. So I'm usually like early meetings and catching up on Slack and everything that's happened. But when it gets to the afternoon, it becomes a lot quieter because Europe is signed off already. East Coast is slowing down their day. And so it becomes a little bit less like it's more of like focus time for me. So those would be like the ideal times to do it. But sometimes I just like power through too because I'm just like, whatever, I'll just sleep earlier tonight or go to bed. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you risk?
Like, how do I take risks during the day?
In general,
or
during your
general?
life.
I mean, I think switching careers when I've left certain places too, where like I wasn't happy, I would just leave and not have like a backup plan of like a next job lined up. Those are big risks, but for me, it's like more important for peace of mind to be done with that immediate situation and then kind of like focus on something that I can like get to somewhere where I want to be. Um, moving, I mean, I moved a lot in my life, and just getting to San Diego where I live now, like that was a risk to do that. But the reward was like I love it here, and I met my wife here, and everything, and so yeah, and I don't know, just working in this industry, I would say is a risk, right? Because especially now with like the economy and like community being one of the first departments to kind of scale back if things are not going well, and just feeling like I haven't been in this industry for a very long time, and so if I were to like get laid off or have to leave my job, like I would go up against a lot of people who probably have way more experience than I do, or just other stuff, and so like just yeah, the risk of like switching careers is huge.
Ah, I can feel that. Yeah. So, how did you meet your wife?
At a coffee shop.
Ah, it's like a movie story.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. So she was working there, um, and I was freelancing, so I was working at the coffee shop just on my computer. And she gave me a free cup of coffee, and I took it as a sign to ask her out. And then on our first date, we got really drunk, and then the rest is history. And the funniest thing about this too is that we both like are from Philadelphia. That's where she moved when she came to the States. And we used to work like a block away from each other there, never knew each other. We have a lot of mutual friends, but we never met there. We met out here.
Yeah, that's really fun. And was it really a sign from her side?
Yeah, it was. So, it's definitely, but that was also a risk, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was super awesome. That was about a little over 4 years ago.
How did you make a proposal to her?
Back in Philadelphia. We went back. This was about 2 years ago, two-ish years. Went back to Philly and went to like a botanical gardens because that's like her favorite. And I never been to this part before too, and she's never been there either. But so in my mind, I was like freaking out because I wasn't entirely sure where to do it, and I didn't want people to be around, and I had like this engagement ring in my pocket and was just acting nervous the whole day. But it worked out. Like I found a place on a bench where there wasn't anyone there, and then after I proposed, someone was coming down and they actually took pictures of us. But it wasn't like planned. I just like they were walking. They're like, "Hey, did you just get engaged? Like, would love to take your photos." And I like did that because I didn't hire a photographer or anything because I didn't want someone to just be like standing around the bush and just like taking a photo.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really nice story. And
Yeah.
I cannot yeah, I know how it feels. So. Tell me please, how do you feel that you need a break?
Um, that's a good question. Usually it's just when I notice more of like my like anxiety and stress levels showing up morning, afternoon, and night. I can just kind of like I don't have that like relaxation period. That's usually the moment where it's just like, okay, like let's plan a day off, or let's get a day off, or let's reset. I've been trying to do a lot better to like recognize that beforehand. So even if I'm not feeling like I need a break, just to like schedule one in anyway, just to like be off, which I really love that at Super High. Like we have a really great, like we have like 25 days off plus public holidays. This upcoming weekend is a public holiday in the States. So that'll be a nice 3-day weekend. I'm going to take a week off in October to see my family. So that'll be super nice. And then we get like 2-3 weeks off in December. So, yeah, like I just know that like internally, like when I'm like feeling like, oh, I'm just anxious all the time, or like when I do have Sunday scaries for sure. Sometimes it's just like wondering what's happening the week coming up. But when I know when it's super intense, like as soon as I wake up and it just lasts all day, like that's a good indicator for me.
How do you usually unplug?
Pretty terribly. My team actually recommended this app called like Focus app, which just shuts off like certain browsers and apps and stuff on your computer. For me too, it's like getting rid of Slack and stuff on my phone. Trying not to have my phone next to me too definitely helps. But I think the stuff that helps me unplug is keeping my mind busy with something else, right? So if it's not focusing on work, like what can I have my mind focus on? Is it reading, or is it something outside, or, you know, things like that? I think I have to like allow my mind to shift focus, which will allow me to like not think about work or think about what's happening in the community and so on.
Yeah, but I know it's super hard to not think about the community.
It's the hardest. Like it's one of the biggest challenges, I think.
Yeah, but I guess like getting rid of notifications helps a lot.
Yeah, it does. It helps because like it creates friction in your like ability to check stuff. So if it's easily accessible on your phone, it's like, oh, I'll just click a button and check it. But if it's not on your phone, if it's only on your computer, it's like, oh, I have to get up and do this thing. And then you can kind of tell your mind like, okay, do I really need to check right now? Like, is it super needed? So that little thing can help a lot.
Tell me, what do small wins mean to you?
They mean everything. It's like a big motivation. You know, it's a what's the word? It causes the momentum of the big win or the big like accomplishment of anything. And I try to keep track of all the small little things, because especially when imposter syndrome hits, or when like you might have had a rough day at work or life or whatever, you can kind of go back to those small moments, which are like, okay, cool. Like today was rough, but that doesn't mean I'm off the path of where I'm supposed to be going, or what is happening. So yeah, I would say that they totally mean a lot.
Name one small win you had recently.
It was last week. Like one of my teammates, we have this channel in our community called Super Highlights, and we use it to highlight like different team members who have been doing a really good job. And like one of my like direct bosses that I report to like shouted me out, just like being super on top of things and empowering others to like participate in the community and do all this stuff. And it was totally unexpected. Yeah, it literally made my whole week. And I was just like, oh, this is awesome.
That's exactly what you needed.
Yes, it was. It was 100%, you know, because, you know, that imposter syndrome or that self-doubt sometimes creeps up, and you're like, am I doing a good job? Like, is this enough? Should I be doing more? I need to focus on this. And then like when you get those little things, you're like, okay, like, yes, Max, this is like, you're doing good. Like, just keep doing what you're doing.
How do you celebrate them?
I probably need to get better at that, you know, to be honest with you, because sometimes I just like move on. I don't actually like do anything to like beyond just acknowledging it at the moment. Like I don't do anything beyond that usually. So yeah, I honestly probably need to do stuff better in celebrating that and like that moment. I do keep track of them just so I can like reference later on. But sometimes in the moment, like I just like, oh, this is awesome. But then I'm like, okay, what's next? Like, so yeah, it's hard for sure.
Do you reward yourself sometimes like, okay, I have this goal. When I will reach out this goal, I will purchase this thing or something like
Mm-hmm.
that?
100%. Yeah, yeah, I do. I definitely do. Sometimes it's even if I'm doing my afternoon walk and I'm like, oh, I really want this, and like I'm just like, you know what? Why not? Like it's a couple dollars, and I've been doing good at this, and like let me just like I'm very much into like small like treating yourself when you want and need. Um, so yeah, I mean, I sometimes I don't have necessarily like a specific goal where it's like, oh, I'll buy these shoes once I complete this task. But it kind of like works itself out where it's just like, oh, all this stuff was doing great. And now like this new shoe release dropped. And so I'm going to like buy it then. So yeah.
How many pairs of shoes do you have?
A lot less than I used to have. I used to be a very avid sneaker collector. But then I've always moved around a lot and had to like schlep the sneakers with me, and it just costs a lot of money to do that. And so, I mean, at my prime, I probably had like 50 or so. Now I have probably like 15, but probably like 3 or 4 in rotation.
Mm-hmm. And what others are doing?
They're just sitting there for maybe a specific moment that I might need it. I know it's terrible just saying this out loud. I love shoes though. Like shoes are my thing. Like
Yeah.
I'm not big in like designer like shirts or jeans or stuff like that, but like a nice pair of shoes. Like I'm addicted to the Nike sneakers app. Like yeah, nice pair of shoes are awesome.
Yeah, I totally got it. And tell me, please, what do you think about Balloon World Cup?
Balloon World Cup.
Yeah.
What is this?
It's a thing you posted when like people are running around and playing with a balloon and trying not to allow
Oh
it to fall on
yes,
the floor.
yes, I love that. It was a game, a game you play as a kid. I remember just being bored, just being like, okay, the floor is like lava. Like let's keep
Yeah.
this thing up in the air. And it takes skill, you know.
Yeah, I saw that video you posted like a long time
Dang,
ago.
you went back
And
in my feed.
and I was thinking why there is a car stays in there, and I was thinking why do they not jump on the car? So it was like they have to
Mhm.
jump on the car, but they didn't. And it was like, why? Okay. Do you like dark humor?
Sometimes.
What is your best dark humor joke?
Oh, put me on the spot. I don't know if I have one. Honestly, I'll have to come back to that.
Got it. What is your consumption to action rate?
Ooh, that is also a good question. I would try to say like at least 60% action, 40% consumption is what I strive to do. At least when it's like related to like work stuff or things like that, just because sometimes I feel like you can fall trapped for one way or the other. Like I think it's you need the balance of both, right? Like it can't be 90-10 or 100-0 or maybe even 80-20. I mean, sometimes it can change. But I do think it's really good to have a balance of both for sure.
Yeah. What is your superpower?
I would say being adaptable, right? Being able to be thrown in situations and just trying to figure it out, and not letting that like not letting that like destroy me, or not. You know, I kind of, I don't say I thrive in those environments, but I can get through those environments.
Okay. And how do you understand that you need somebody's help?
Just when I'm feeling overwhelmed. And I'm honestly not afraid to ask either, you know, just because it's like, there's just knowing that like you're not going to know everything or be able to do everything. I've never had that pride where it's just like I have to do this on my own and like no one else can help me. And that's honestly one of the things I love about community is like people are just like, can I help? What can I help with? And so yeah, I mean, I just kind of lean into that. But I would definitely say too, it's like when I just want other perspective and opinion on stuff, you know, if it's like I'm writing something, I'm like, oh, this sounds good to me, but like, does it sound good to someone else? So can I ask for help to like review this or edit it, or just give me your perspective? Because yeah, it's a great way to like learn from someone. And more often than not, people are always down to help. Like it might not be on your exact schedule of like, okay, if you're helping me, it needs to get done today. But yeah, I mean, I rarely have run into an encounter where someone's just like, nope, don't want to do it.
Yeah. And how do you feel when somebody asks you for help?
I love it. I mean, sometimes again, like protecting boundaries and being like, oh, like I'd love to do this. I can't get to it now, but I can do it so-and-so date, I think is important. But I love it because it means like that this person values my perspective or wants my opinion on something. And, you know, I use it as an added benefit too. Like I kind of use stuff like this as like, okay, like I want to help as many people as I can because someday I'm going to need help too. And like, it's just going to help that energy karma come back, versus just being like, nope, not going to help you, not going to help you. And then if I ever need anything, that same energy is going to come back to me. And so I want to like make sure I'm putting out what I want in return.
And like, if you see that somebody asks for help and it will take a really long time for you to do it, so how do you act in this situation?
Yeah, it's usually just being transparent and being like, hey, like, that's what I found to be helpful for myself when someone asked me for help. And then when someone else like asks someone for help and they do something, I just want them to be transparent as possible. And I want to be transparent as possible, because I think the friction happens when you're like, I'll do something and then it doesn't get done. And you're like, what the heck? Like, yeah. We just talked about this. And so I'll just be super transparent and be like, hey, like this looks great. I could probably get this done by this date and this done by that date. And then if I get it done quicker, then awesome. Like it's a surprise and delight for them. But I like to be super transparent in that process. And usually people are like, oh, awesome. Thank you for letting me know. Because again, if they were like, hey, can you help with this? And I was like, sure. And then they were expecting it by tomorrow and it wasn't getting done, then they would probably feel a certain way about me and probably might not ask for my help in the future. And then I probably can't ask for their help too. So it just creates this like burned bridge that is unnecessary.
Yeah. Tell me, please, how do you invest in yourself?
Oh, good question. Definitely with like books and things that I can constantly learn. So like, you know, going through C-Score or any courses or things that I can like see as like an added benefit from me. Books as well too. And then same with like saving money and investing and you know, just being able to be like, okay, cool, like let me put this X amount of money away now for like maybe for the future when we need it, if we want to save for a home or if we do have a kid, or or times get tough and there's and just an extra set aside. So those are two, um, ways that I like definitely like invest in myself a lot.
Yeah,
And
and
I try to make it a habit.
if you had to choose course or book, what would you choose?
Usually I would say book. It depends on the course. If it's self-paced, um, it just depends. But normally book because I can sometimes like retain more information better that way. Sometimes I do like the live courses though, like through C School, where we meet every Monday at this time. It allows me to be accountable for that hour and like that date, which helps a lot versus sometimes where it's like, if it's self-paced course or if it's a book where I'm like, I didn't get to it today, like I'll push it off. So it really just depends what it is for sure. And like how long it is.
Once you tweeted, a long time ago, you tweeted, does anyone else look up random cities on Google Earth or is it just me? Are you still looking up for them?
Oh, yes. I 100%. And I also play this game called GeoGuessr, which you get dropped in an area and you have to you can move around on Google Earth, or Google Maps, but you have to figure out like where you are. I love it. Like I grew up like loving to look at maps and cities and stuff. Like I'm fascinated by that thing. Like I think if in another life, like I would do something in that industry because it's just awesome. Like I just love learning about exploring and learning and all that, and just seeing like, oh, like there's this huge city here and like let me just explore and look at the map and yeah, I'm all about it.
Are you remembering all this stuff?
On GeoGuessr I am because I play it every day and I can recognize patterns now, like in different countries have certain things that other countries don't. Same with like if you notice like a language, you can say like, oh, like this is probably in this area. So yeah, I mean, I would say like I'm getting better at that aspect of it and like recognizing stuff. Sometimes when I'm just on like Google Earth, it's just more of like for fun where I'm just like I literally sometimes will just go like this on the screen and then wherever I land, I will just like explore.
Yeah, it's do you have a list of places where you want to go?
Yeah, I definitely want to go to like South America. Would love to explore South America. I haven't been to Europe yet, so would also love to explore. My wife and I, for a honeymoon, were in at the end of June. We're at St. Lucia, which is an island in the Caribbean. So that was awesome. And then, yeah, I mean, I would love to just explore as much as possible. I always get nervous with traveling just because just being away from everything and if I'm taking time off work or like what it is. And so, but I definitely do want to travel more as things are opening up and people are doing that. And as I work for a company that's fully remote too, which is awesome. And I can work wherever I want. Like I could travel to so-and-so place and work. But I don't have anything planned.
Life happens.
Yeah. Yes.
I wish to have the sky as the limit to our conversation, but time is the limit. So let's jump to the rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, whiskey or scotch?
Whiskey.
Control or chaos?
What was the second one?
Chaos.
And then first is control.
Yeah.
Yeah, control.
What are your favorite color and song?
Color is probably like an olive green. Song. I don't have a favorite song.
Yeah, that's the hardest part of this question. What
Maybe
song
like
plays right now in your mind?
maybe like Parcels Tied Up right now, I think is a really great one. They're like a funk band in Australia.
If you were a superhero, what superpower would you have?
I am a superhero. My superpower is being a one-hand Wonder Man.
Got it. Totally agree. What do you learn? Oh, sorry. Who do you learn from in the community world? Name one person.
You.
Cheater. You know,
No, Noel Flowers.
name two people who I should definitely interview.
Definitely interview. Well, you've interviewed so many people. I have to figure out who you haven't interviewed.
You can
Um,
just name two people and it's
so
okay.
uh, I would say Derek Chu, who's in the community club community, and I'll also say to interview. Let me just take a quick look, real quick. 2 seconds. Rebecca, who's on the common room team.
Common room. Got it. Is there one question that I definitely should have asked you but didn't?
No, this is great. Like you did your research. This is awesome. This is a really cool podcast where like interview where yeah, you did a great job. I loved it.
Got it. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Max, for giving the most precious resource you only have. It's your time. For being
No, of
able to
course.
have this amazing conversation. You know, I had this feeling that I know you forever and it's only strengthened. So, yeah.
No, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for being so open. And yeah, see you as usual in the community world. See you everywhere.
Yes. Yes.
Have an amazing day and
You
see you
too.
soon.
Talk
Bye.
to you soon. Bye.